I'm 90 years old, and tonight I finally understand why I could sit in a full room my entire life and still feel like no one was really there with me. I'm saying this now because there isn't much left to protect. Most of the people I would have worried about disappointing are gone, and the rest already see me the way they see me. At 90, the days don't rush anymore. They stretch. They give you too much time to think. And when your body slows down, your memories don't. They line up and wait their turn. I don't tell this story to be forgiven. I don't even know if forgiveness would change anything now. I'm telling it because when you get to this age, the truth gets louder than the noise you spent your life hiding behind. I live in a small room now. There are chairs for visitors that rarely get used, photographs on the wall that prove I once stood in the middle of many lives. Birthdays, holidays, dinners, work events, funerals, weddings. I was always there, and I was always alone. For most of my life, I thought loneliness meant being physically by yourself. An empty house, no phone calls, no invitations. I didn't know you could feel just as lonely sitting at the head of the table, carving the roast, paying the bill, answering everyone's questions. I thought my role was enough. I grew up believing that presence was practical, that love looked like responsibility, that if you showed up and did your part, the rest would take care of itself. That belief followed me into adulthood like a rule I never questioned. In my 20s, I was busy becoming someone. That's what I told myself. Building a career, establishing stability, making sure I would never be caught unprepared. I wasn't reckless. I wasn't cruel. I didn't abandon anyone. I just postponed things. I postponed conversations. I postponed rest. I postponed listening. I thought there would be a quieter season later when I could finally sit still with people without feeling like I was falling behind somewhere else. When I married, I believed love was something you secured once and then maintained through effort. I worked longer hours so my family wouldn't worry. I came home tired and convinced that exhaustion was proof of devotion. My wife would talk to me in the evenings. Not about big things at first, just small thoughts, something that happened during the day, something she noticed, something she felt. I listened with half of my attention, already planning tomorrow. I nodded. I answered when it seemed appropriate. I didn't notice when she stopped finishing her sentences. When the children came, my sense of duty doubled. I wanted to give them everything I never had. I wanted to be dependable, predictable, strong. I was always nearby, but I was rarely still. I attended school events but stood at the back checking my watch. I helped with homework but rushed through it. I asked how their day was, but I didn't wait long enough for the real answer. They learned early that I was kind but busy, that I loved them but from a distance that never quite closed. At the time it all felt reasonable, necessary even. Everyone around me lived the same way. We praised endurance, we admired sacrifice, we called it adulthood. No one warned me that you can lose closeness slowly, without a single argument or dramatic moment. It doesn't break, it thins. You miss a few dinners, you delay a few talks, you choose productivity over presence. Just enough times the people stop expecting more from you, they adjust. And once people adjust to your absence, they rarely ask you to return. In my 40s and 50s, the rooms got fuller. Promotions, gatherings, recognition. People shook my hand and thanked me. I was respected. But respect doesn't sit beside you when the conversation turns quiet. I would stand in groups and laugh at the right moments, but feel like I was watching through glass. Everyone else seemed connected by invisible threads I had somehow missed. I assumed that feeling was just stress, or age, or the cost of responsibility. I told myself it would pass. My wife grew quieter over the years, not bitter, just careful. She stopped bringing me her worries. She handled things herself. I mistook her independence for strength. I didn't see that she was learning how to live without leaning on me. When she got sick, it wasn't sudden. It was gradual. Doctor visits, medication, adjustments. I sat beside her hospital bed one afternoon, holding her hand, surrounded by machines and people, and felt a panic I couldn't explain. She was right there, but she felt far away. She looked at me with a tired kind of kindness, and I realized I didn't know what she was thinking. I hadn't known for years. She died quietly. No dramatic last words. Just a long exhale and a stillness that filled the room. After the funeral, the house was full. Family, friends, voices everywhere. That night, when everyone left, I sat alone in the kitchen and understood something too late. I had shared a life with someone I never fully met. Not because she hid herself, because I was always on my way somewhere else. That was the first time the loneliness became undeniable. The children visited less often after that, not out of cruelty. They had their own lives, their own families. When they did come, the conversations stayed polite. Updates, schedules, weather. They loved me, I know that. But they didn't come to me for comfort or advice or honesty. I had taught them I was reliable, not reachable. As the years passed, people from my old life disappeared one by one. Some moved away, some died, some simply drifted. The rooms got quieter, and I finally had all the time I thought I needed. But by then there was no one left who needed me to slow down. Loneliness at this age isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It sits beside you like an old habit. You wake up and go through the motions. You eat, you read, you watch the world continue without you. And you think about all the moments that felt too small to matter at the time, the conversations you rushed, the silences you filled with work, the hands you held without really feeling. I used to think being alone meant being forgotten. Now I understand it can also mean being unknown. I wasn't unseen, I was unentered. I kept people at arm's length without realizing it, and by the time I reached out, they had learned to live without that closeness. The turning point wasn't dramatic. There was no single moment of collapse. It was a simple realization, sitting in a common room one afternoon, surrounded by people my age, all watching the same television, all silent, a full room, and the same feeling I had known my entire life. That's when it became clear. I had spent decades preparing for a future that required less of me emotionally, not more. I trained myself to be useful instead of open. I thought being needed was the same as being known. It isn't. There are things now that cannot be fixed. I cannot go back and sit on the floor longer with my children. I cannot ask my wife what she was afraid of or what she needed from me that I never noticed. I cannot reintroduce myself to people who stopped trying years ago. Time doesn't negotiate. It just closes doors quietly and waits for you to notice. If you're listening to this, I'm not asking you to change your life. I don't believe in instructions anymore. I'm only sharing what it feels like to reach the end and finally see the shape of your choices. I wish I had known that presence isn't passive, that it requires attention, not just availability. I wish I had understood that silence is not neutral. It either deepens a connection or erodes it. Most of all, I wish I had known that being strong all the time can make people stop leaning toward you. There is still gratitude in my life. I don't want to pretend otherwise. I had work I was proud of. I had moments of joy. I was loved in the ways I allowed. But gratitude and sorrow can sit in the same chair. I don't have many years left. I can feel that. My body reminds me daily. I spend my time differently now, slower, quieter, more aware. When someone speaks to me, I listen like it might be the last time. Sometimes it is. When the room fills, I no longer mistake noise for connection. If this meant something to you, that's enough. You don't need to carry it further than that. I'm 90 years old and I finally understand why I always felt alone in a full room. I just wish I had understood it while there was still time to sit closer.